Mitt Romney is the former governor of Massachusetts. He ran unsuccessfully for the Republican nomination for president last year. Governor Romney, it's nice to have you with us. Good morning.
Thanks, Matt. Good to be here.
This trip to the Middle East, the White House says it's about Middle East peace. It's about sending a message to the Muslim world that times have changed in this country and the way we're viewed by the Muslim world should change as well. You've called it part of a tour of apology, and you don't mean that in a good way. What's wrong with this form of diplomacy?
Well, nothing wrong with going out and meeting with leaders of other nations and showing our respect for people in the world of Islam. But the prior visits that the president has had, for instance, to Europe, really resulted in the kind of apology I think is inappropriate. As the Guardian newspaper said, the president was more critical of his own nation on foreign soil than any president in the history of the United States. That's the wrong way to go.
It doesn't seem as if this president's going to go to the Middle East and say it's all America's fault, but he is willing to concede that some mistakes have been made, and you would concede the same thing, wouldn't you?
I don't. Absolutely. Of course America makes mistakes, but what we have done to sacrifice in terms of blood and treasure for the freedom of other people is beyond anything any other nation has done in the history of mankind. And so that if you will, overshadows all the mistakes and suggests that you don't go around the world apologizing, as he did in France, as he did in Europe, as he did in Arabic TV when he first came on the air.
Is it perhaps less about the words he uses, more about the tone he uses? Is that what you want to see? Stronger tone?
I think it's appropriate for him to describe the greatness of America, to have the kind of confidence and resolve in protecting freedom around the world that has always been part of the American heritage.
Let me move on to the collapse of General Motors, the bankruptcy filing, and boy, you got this right. You and I spoke back in November of last year, and you said to me, Matt, if the government gives these troubled automakers a check, they will go out of business. Structured bankruptcy is the only solution. Is this the time for I told you so's?
Well, we got there finally. It's the right course to finally restructure these companies so they can be cost competitive, start anew, and grow and thrive. I wish they'd have done this a while ago, as I suggested, because now we spent tens of billions of dollars. That's really money down the drain.
Well, the president said he doesn't want to be in the car business, but the government and the taxpayers now own about 60% of General Motors. How long will the government, in your opinion, have to stay in this deal?
The government should get out right now. The taxpayers should own it. The government ought to say, you know what, we're going to distribute the shares to the taxpayers of America, let them buy and sell amongst themselves as we do in a normal public market, and get the government out of deciding where the plants are going to be, what kind of cars we're going to have. Look, I don't want the Sierra Club telling General Motors what kind of cars they have to build. Let's let the taxpayers, the shareholders, decide how GM is going to be run.
Supreme Court nominee Sonia Sotomayor has been making the rounds on Capitol Hill, speaking to members of the Senate Judiciary Committee who will decide her fate. And she's come up with that comment from 2001 about a Latina woman making a better decision than a white male. And she has admitted to people like Dianne Feinstein that she had a poor choice of words. Does that put the issue to rest for you?
Well, I think the main issue is, what is her judicial philosophy? Does she believe that empathy, basically deciding who she has more sentiment for, should decide a case, or does she believe in justice being blind and that she should decide major cases on the basis of the law? That's what we're going to want to see. Will she follow the law, follow the Constitution, or will she substitute her own heart in a particular setting? And if she says those things in the right way and feels them fundamentally, well, then she'll get support. If she doesn't, she won't.
10 seconds left. I had dinner with some friends here in Boston last night. I mentioned I was interviewing you. They both said, oh, he's already running for president. 4 months into this administration, are you running for the nomination next time around?
No, I'm looking right now to try and get some Republicans elected in 2009 and again in 2010. And what happens down the road, well, it's a very distant horizon. We'll look at it later.
Governor Romney, it's nice to see you.
Thanks, Matt. Good to see you.
Thanks for joining me here in Boston.